Texas, a beautiful and ecologically diverse state. Forests, plains, hills, creeks, rivers, and beaches have drawn people here for hundreds of years, and generations of Texans have been closely tied to the land through farming and ranching. The face of rural Texas, however, has been changing. The countryside is being divided into smaller and smaller tracts. Houses are creeping farther from the city, and open spaces are becoming harder to find. Increasing tax burdens are forcing families to sell portions of their land, furthering the fragmentation and development of once wild areas. Protecting the natural state of Texas has become increasingly important to the people of the Lone Star State, and they are looking for ways to preserve the lands they love, while at the same time protecting the financial interests of their families. Conservation easements have become a popular tool in this endeavor. A conservation easement is a flexible, negotiated tool a landowner may use to protect his or her land. It's a legal agreement between the landowner and a land trust, and it may also provide both local and federal tax relief. In this video, you'll meet people from the Texas Hill Country who have used conservation easements. They each had a particular reason for using an easement, but they all had the same overall objective: to protect something they find precious. The Shield Ranch, just west of Austin, is a beautiful slice of the Texas Hill Country. 6,700 acres along both sides of Barton Creek, teeming with wildlife and native plants.
Family's history of the land began in 1938 when my grandparents, who lived in San Antonio, bought the ranch. And they bought it to be both a working ranch and also a family retreat. And my mom spent summers up here with her mom as a girl, and then we spent a lot of time out here ourselves growing up.
Bob Ayers and his family aren't the only ones who've grown to love the Hill Country. People are moving to the area. Ranches are being sold to developers, and the countryside looks different almost daily.
It's a beautiful part of the state. It's close into Austin, so it's a magnet for development, and people are attracted here for the same reasons that they've always been. It's pretty and the water's nice, and it's a nice place to live. And I knew from even my days working here in the summers in high school that the area was beginning to develop, and houses were popping up on the hilltops.
For a lot of landowners, increasing property values means it's harder to hold on to the land and keep from having to sell portions to pay the taxes. Then there's the lure of selling for economic benefit.
There is a lot of pressure. The land becomes more valuable all the time, and so there's always a temptation to realize that value some way and to sell the property. And I was eager to see if there was a way that we wouldn't have to do that long term.
The heirs found conservation easements as a way to keep the ranch intact.
The main reason we wanted to put conservation easements on the ranch was to ensure that long term we'd never see subdivisions and strip malls.
And by preserving the ranch, they also found relief from tax burdens that often accompany owning valuable land. Additionally, the city of Austin bought an easement from the heirs to protect the water quality of Barton Creek.
We did benefit from the tax incentives that are part of the laws around conservation easements, and when we donated our easement to the Nature Conservancy, that was a charitable contribution that was provided real tax benefits to my family. And when we sold the easement to the city of Austin, well, there weren't tax benefits, but we were able to realize a part of the economic value of the property, which was important within the family.
Thanks to conservation easements, the Shield Ranch remains intact today, providing wildlife habitat, protecting water quality, and serving as a retreat for the family that loves it, and now will never have to see it disappear.
What we determined was that we would be able to pass the land on to our family. It would still remain a valuable asset, and we could continue to use the ranch both for agricultural purposes and recreational purposes like we always had.
In 1872, land was being parceled out near Fredericksburg, Texas. Settlers were moving into the hill country.
Anson Jones gave 3 strips of land to these settlers here, and my great-great-grandfather was one of them. He was Johann Frederick Christian Gottlieb Strigler, which is a handful.
Through the years, the Strigler homestead began to change.
Of course, as time went by, they chopped it up, just subdivided, and families got it. But I believe originally it was about 700 acres on the piece of land.
Bernice and Bruce Jordan reclaimed some of the family land back in the 1950s. They loved the old farm and enjoyed researching its history. With no children to pass it on to, they wondered what would happen to the land once they were gone. They decided to look into a conservation easement.
The primary project was to protect the wildlife, and really, I guess the other part is just to keep the place in one unit.
In 2001, the couple worked with the Hill Country Land Trust to create an easement.
It's locked in for keeps, and can't nobody mess it. It's irrevocable, they call it, the word. Actually, you don't give them the place. You don't lose a darn thing by doing it, except a little bit of legal fees to have the papers, that easement made up.
The Jordans are now confident that the wildlife they want to protect will still have a place to live as more people continue to settle in the Texas Hill Country.
We want to be good stewards of the land, worthy of the land.
In the mid-1990s, Pam and Mike Reese were looking to find a piece of land they could get away to. They looked at a dozen or so properties and settled on a 700-acre tract in Blanco County with river frontage.
This was really the nicest one, and the strength of this one was the Pedernales River. It's just beautiful down there where the river is. We were able to buy it, and then we've been adding on to it over the past 15 years, and now we're up to 3,600 acres, 2,200 of which is in conservation easement.
When the Reeses first heard of conservation easements, they wondered why would anyone use the land management tool. They soon rethought the benefits of an easement when a developer showed interest in some tracts of land close to their ranch.
And they were going to build a number of houses on them, high density, and this alarmed us because
we didn't realize we were conservationists until that point when it was just coming toward us.
Mike and Pam especially loved the water of the hill country. They feared that development would forever damage the quality and quantity of the precious resource. Their properties are now models of how to preserve the springs and creeks that flow into the Pedernales River.
when you build large housing developments on property, you can never go backwards. I mean, all the plants, all the habitat for wildlife, they're gone. They just bulldoze them out and it's finished. So we decided, okay, well, this area here is an area that we really need to partner with our neighbors and get people involved in conservation. And it's not only to the benefit of us and our surrounding neighbors, but it also benefits the people in Austin who drink the water that comes out of the river.
The easements along the river are unique for each property and tailored to each landowner's needs.
And the way we structured our easement, again, you've got lots of flexibility in the way you structure an easement. We structured our easement where we have, I think it's 5 separate tracts. So if in the future our daughter or granddaughter have to sell a parcel, they can, but it stays in conservation.
A very large stretch of the Pedernales River is now protected, thanks to the Reeses, their neighbors, and conservation easements.
We have done a lot for the Pedernales River, and I think it will remain healthy, at least for the foreseeable future.
So how do you get more information on conservation easements? Workshops and informational meetings are held periodically throughout the state. If you're ready to get started or need more detailed information, you can simply make a phone call to the Texas Land Trust Council.
I would call the Texas Land Trust Council, or if you know of a land trust that you're interested in, a lot of them talk. So call and ask for questions about how do I start the process. But also there's a conservation easement handbook that answers every question you would have.
How to protect land, wildlife, water, or your family's assets? A conservation easement might be the answer you've been looking for.
Conservation easements, by far and away, are the best way to protect your land.